So I hope you've had a great week. I have had an interesting week. I woke up on Saturday with a bit of an aching tooth, and by the end of the weekend, I was in absolute agony. Managed to get to the dentist Monday morning to find out that I needed to have a tooth taken out, which I had done on Wednesday. And not that I'm telling you this story because I want lots of sympathy, but it did remind me of the conversation we had last week, which is all about value selling and how when we're in pain, we are not buying someone's time, we're buying the ability for them to get rid of our pain. And of course, um, that's exactly what the dentist did, thankfully, because toothache is really, really, really painful, trust me. So I'm on my way to recovery now and trying to catch up on some lost time that I've had during this week. So today I want to talk to you about writing proposals and when to pitch and when to walk away from it. I spent a really interesting day with a client of mine this week working on their end-to-end solution of their proposal. So we looked at everything from when the client asked them to write a proposal, look at the structure of their proposals and their pitches and their credentials, and just looked at ways of improving that and also helping them understand when they need to say no and walk away from writing a proposal. So that was really good, and I thought I would share some of that with you today in my Facebook Live session. So we all know that it takes hours and hours and hours to write a proposal, and indeed if we're going to invest our time doing it, then we want to make sure that we're going to give ourselves the best chance of winning. So when we're got lots to do, when we're rushing to write a proposal, there's probably a good chance that we're not going to win it. So really we need to make sure that we write less proposals, but the ones that we do choose to write are the ones that we really invest loads of time in and make sure that we're giving ourselves the best chance of winning them. So when someone asks you to write a proposal, I know you can feel really flattered and excited by that opportunity, and you can go off quite quickly and start writing proposal. And in fact, if we're in a place of scarcity, then we're obviously going to be really happy that we were asked to write that proposal in the first place. However, I just want to give you some sort of cautionary advice about doing that, because we can spend hours and hours and hours writing proposals and not having a very good kind of win rate. So what we really need to do is make sure that we are winning more proposals and writing less proposals. And indeed, remember, if you're spending lots of time writing proposal, then that's taking up time that you could be doing other work, such as other business development or delivering client work and so on. So and I just wanted to say, although I get a lot of this theory, this happened to me recently as well. So I had an email from a company in Brighton who are a marketing agency, so a perfect fit for me. And they had a specific need where they wanted some training for some of their account handling staff who are client facing. So I had a chat with someone on the phone. I then put together not a really long proposal, luckily, but a proposal about how I would tackle what they said. In fact, I said that the stage one really was for me to come and meet some of those people and kind of do a little bit of fact finding and digging deeper. I sent this person a price, and guess what? I never heard back. And I bet you've been in a similar situation before where someone said to you, we need a proposal writing and we need it really quickly. In fact, it's Monday today and we need it by Wednesday. So you pull out all the stops, you work really long hours, you send off your proposal, and then silence. You could hear a pin drop, and you chase the client and you don't hear from them. And you chase the client and you don't hear from them, and then eventually you get an email that says thanks but no thanks. And that's exactly what happened to me. I couldn't get hold of this person. I chased for about 2 weeks, and then finally she wrote back to me saying, we've decided to take a different route. And then I did what I should have done at the beginning, did a bit of research to find out that she was just the office, well, not just, but she was the office manager. And I suspect that her boss had said to her, can you go and get some pricing for doing this particular piece of work? So she'd reached out to me and probably a few other people just to get some comparative pricing. And then, and that might lead them in the future to go and set a budget aside to do this work, or it might have made them decide that it's too expensive and they'll do it in-house. But whatever the case, it was way too early in this qualification process for me to have agreed to write a proposal. So, one thing you need to be mindful of is that when people ask you to write pitches and proposals, what's the hidden agenda? And there's always something that they're not going to tell you, obviously. So what's the hidden agenda? It could be, like in my case, that the client's trying to find out how much something costs. It could be that they want to kick their existing agency up the backside, and make sure that they're still getting good value for money from them. Or it could be that they're after some free ideas. But whatever it is, you want to try and find that out. But what you really need to do is make sure you've qualified the prospect really well in the first place. So what steps do you go through before you agree to write a proposal? That's kind of what I want to talk about today. So you might get an email from somebody in the first place, or you might meet them, or you might have a telephone conversation with them, and then you might have a face-to-face conversation with them. And the kind of things you need to be thinking about is, are they a good fit for my business? Not could I help them, but are they my perfect niche type of client? Because if they are, you give yourself a way higher chance of actually winning the business. And if you tick that box and they are a good fit for you, then you also need to listen to your gut instinct. Is what they're telling you sound plausible, or is there something slightly suspect about this? Or do you have some concerns about how the relationship might be if you work with them? I always tell my clients, present behaviour dictates future behaviour. So listen to your gut instinct, and if it feels something slightly dodgy, then you either need to uncover what that is, or you need to walk away from it. So the thing you need to think about is, what are the minimum 5 questions, 3 questions, 10 questions, whatever it is, that I must have answered before I'll ever agree to write a proposal for a client. And so I'm just going to refresh my screen again. The kind of questions that you might ask are things like, why now is a good time for you to be asking me to to write a proposal for you? What are you trying to achieve from this particular piece of work? You obviously want to ask the obvious questions like, do you have a budget? What are the timescales for this, including the decision making and when the project needs to kick off and when the project needs to be delivered? You need to understand what the process is. In other words, is it a competitive pitch? Who's involved in this? Am I talking to the decision maker? And so on and so on. So what are the questions that you need to have answered? And you need to be really strict here. You need to say there is a certain number of questions that I must have answered before I will agree to start writing a proposal or putting together a pitch. And if the client isn't willing to answer these questions, then it's probably suspect and you probably need to walk away. Now, one thing that's worth knowing is that we all will answer these in different ways. There's no point sending a long list in an email of questions to a client who is someone that hates loads of detail. So sometimes you could say, look, I have a set of questions that I need to get answered, and in order for me to write the best proposal for you, it would be really helpful for both of us if I can get these questions answered. And you might do that by phone. You might say, okay, I'll send you the questions by email, or you might just have a conversation with the client where you can drop the particular questions in. But you have to say to yourself, don't pass go, don't get £200 unless I can get these questions answered. And if you've got the questions answered and you feel like at that point, actually, this sounds like a really good opportunity for us and it's right in our ballpark, it's right in our niche, then go for it and start writing a proposal. If you struggle to get those questions answered, but you still feel like you want to write the proposal, then just be warned. You're going to invest a lot of time stabbing in the dark, hoping that you're kind of answering their brief when you don't really know exactly what they need. Now, sometimes, clients ask you to write a proposal, and the proposal that you've written, because it's too early in the process, actually helps them shape the brief that they then go on and send out to other agencies. I'm not quite sure why it is, but it often seems to be the case that if you're the company that has helped that client early on in the process to shape the brief, to actually think about exactly what they need, then they don't come to you, but they go elsewhere to actually get the brief and get the work. So don't be that person. There are when I first started out coaching, I would meet clients who would say to me, we've got budget XYZ, tell me why we should spend it on coaching, or why we should spend it on training. And I sat there trying to convince them why coaching or was better than doing something else. And eventually I realised that they're not my right clients. They're not qualified enough. We all understand this concept of the sales funnel. They were just too far up the sales funnel. And I didn't want to be investing my time meeting those people to try and convince them that they should get a new website, or they should buy a coach, or they should design a new brochure, or have a new social media campaign, or whatever it is. You want to find clients that know that's what they need. Now they're just trying to decide which agency they want to hire to do that. So make sure that they are far enough down the sales funnel, that you've qualified them enough, and that they can answer these questions, these 5 questions. Now, if they don't, and they don't want to do that, then you can walk away from it. But you can also just have some other documents that you send them, so that you don't waste your time writing proposal, but you're obviously not just walking away. So those kind of documents would be things like case studies, they would be testimonials, they would be example projects they've worked on with some sense of pricing. I always think if a client wants you to write a proposal, but they're not going to give you a sense of pricing, then that is absolutely crazy. And why on earth would you do it? Imagine if you were having an extension to your house and you had an architect come round, and the architect sat there and said, okay, tell me about what you want, what budget you've got, and you turned around to them and said, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what budget I've got, I don't really know. Well, the architect wouldn't start writing plans up. They would just probably show you examples of work they've done before, so that they can help you decide whether you're in the low cost, the mid cost, or the high cost bracket. Also, when people don't have budgets, it is a bit of an indication that maybe they're just fishing and that it's early in the process. So, as I say, make sure you have these questions answered, and make sure that if they don't want to answer the questions, you either walk away or you just send them some examples of your work that take you no time whatsoever to produce, but might help them qualify them further down the sales funnel. So that's kind of the message that I really wanted to give today, sort of short and sweet. I see it time and time again where people are investing lots and lots of time being really busy writing proposals, but not having a very high conversion rate. And the simple matter of the fact is they're not qualifying those prospects well enough before they agree to spend time writing a proposal. As I said earlier, every hour you spend writing a proposal is an hour you can't be doing something else in your business, which could be looking for more ideal kinds of business. So that's it for today. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back with you next week. If you're not watching this in the Agency Mastermind group, then have a look at the link below, and please come along and join the group to watch more content like this from me, as well as joining in the discussion. Have a great weekend.